Have you ever looked at a couple and wondered, how are they still together? You see the tension. You hear the subtle put-downs. You feel the distance even in their smiles. And yet they've been married for decades. One partner clearly craves attention, controls conversations, dismisses the other's feelings. It's easy to spot the patterns if you know what to look for. But somehow the relationship survives. It doesn't just last, it endures year after year. Why? Here's the hard truth: narcissists can stay married for decades. Not because of love, not because of growth, but because of something much deeper, much darker. And understanding this might change the way you see relationships forever. Stay with this until the end, because by the time this is over, you won't just understand narcissism, you'll understand yourself. You'll gain clarity, you'll feel stronger. And maybe, just maybe, you'll finally have words for what you've felt all along, but couldn't explain. Let's begin with a truth many people miss. Narcissists don't enter relationships to connect. They enter to win, to dominate, to feed something empty inside them, to be adored without doing the work of being loving, to be seen as the perfect partner while never truly being one. And this is where the confusion begins, because in the beginning, they're often everything you ever wanted. They charm you. They listen, at least it seems like it. They mirror your values, your goals, your heart. It feels like destiny, like finally someone sees you. But it's not love, it's strategy. Narcissists are masters of illusion, and illusions are built for audiences, not for truth, not for intimacy, but for effect. So how does this illusion last for decades? It lasts because narcissists don't show their true face all at once. They reveal it piece by piece, slowly enough that you start to question yourself before you ever question them. It's not a slap, it's a whisper, not a storm. It's a slow fog. You don't wake up one morning and realize you're being controlled. You wake up wondering why you feel smaller, less joyful, more unsure. You wonder why you apologize so much, why you're walking on eggshells, why your confidence, once bold, now trembles in the mirror. You question your tone, your timing, your truth. And all the while, the narcissist plays the role of the misunderstood partner, the victim, the one who's always trying. But here's what they're really doing. They're building a system of control wrapped in charm, a cage decorated like a palace. From the outside, the marriage looks solid. From the inside, it feels like survival. And yet, people stay us. Decades pass. Children grow up. Milestones come and go. And still the cycle continues. Why? Because narcissists are not careless, they are calculated. They know how to give just enough to keep hope alive, just enough affection to reset the damage, just enough progress to keep you from walking away. 4, just enough blame shifting to make you doubt your pain. And that's what keeps the marriage going. Not love, not loyalty, but a loop built on hope. 4, fear, guilt, and psychological warfare, if you've been in it. You know, it's not that you didn't see the red flags. It's that your heart wanted to believe they'd turn green. This is the unspoken reality in so many long-term toxic marriages. It's not about weakness. It's not about stupidity. It's about being human, being wired to seek connection, to give the benefit of the doubt, to believe people can change. But narcissists rarely change. They just evolve their tactics. And so the years go by. The couple celebrates anniversaries. They host family dinners. They smile in photos. But behind the scenes, one person slowly fades while the other thrives on that fading. And here's the twist. For the world rarely sees it, because narcissists care deeply about image. They will protect the marriage not for love, but to avoid shame, to keep control, to maintain the illusion of perfection, so they stay. And the partner often stays too, not because they're weak, but because they've been conditioned to believe they have no choice. But here's the good news: awareness is power. And power, once claimed, is hard to take away. Keep watching, because this is just the beginning. In the next section, we'll pull back the curtain even more. You'll see the mask they wear, how it's built, why it works, and how to recognize it before it pulls you in again. You are not powerless. You are not invisible. You're about to see what was meant to keep you blind. And when you see it, you can rise above it. Keep going. This is your strength waking up. People often think narcissists show up with cruelty on their sleeves, that you'll spot them immediately. Loud, arrogant, dismissive. But the truth is far more dangerous. The real narcissist, they show up wearing a mask, a perfect one. One that looks like kindness, charm, even love. That mask is their power. It's their weapon. It's how they survive. And it's how they trap. They don't start by breaking you down. They start by building you up. They notice your strengths, your hopes, your wounds. They mirror your values, your humor, your dreams. And in that reflection, you start to see something rare, something you've waited for. You feel seen, understood, wanted. It feels magical, but it's not magic. It's a method, because narcissists don't connect with people. They scan them. They look for cracks in your confidence, for your longing to be accepted, for your need to be loved deeply. They read your soul like a playbook, then play the role you've been waiting for. It's calculated, cold, and incredibly effective. This is why so many intelligent, emotionally strong people fall into their world, because the mask is believable. The act is flawless. Until it isn't. At first, you feel lucky. Then you start feeling wrong, but you can't explain why. They still say the right words. They still smile the same smile, but something has shifted subtly, quietly. The compliments slow down. The small criticisms sneak in. The control becomes routine, but it's dressed as help. They question your decisions, correct your stories, redefine your emotions, but always with a calm voice, a soft touch, a look that says, "I'm only trying to help you." That's the genius of the mask. It doesn't fall off. It fades slowly. So slow you don't notice until you're already doubting your own reflection. You start apologizing for things you didn't do. You start defending yourself against accusations you can't make sense of. You start losing your voice while trying to keep the peace. And when you finally react, when you cry or shout or break under the pressure, they point at your pain and say, "See, this is why I have to treat you this way." That's the trap. They push you to the edge, then blame you for falling. And the mask, it stays on. Not for you, for the world. To everyone else, they're generous, funny, caring. They bring flowers, tell charming stories, help their neighbors. They know how to perform. They build a version of themselves that no one would ever question. So when you try to speak up, people don't believe you. They pity you. Or worse, they defend the narcissist. This isolation deepens the control, because now even reality feels like a lie. That's what makes the mask so deadly. It doesn't just hide the narcissist. It hides your truth. They wear that mask for decades. In some marriages, until the final breath. Not because they're committed to love, but because they're committed to image, to power, to control. They fear exposure more than anything, so they overcompensate in public. They paint a picture that's impossible to question. And you become the silent partner in a performance you never auditioned for. But deep down, you feel it. You feel it in the way your soul shrinks in their presence, in how you second guess your every word, in how you miss the person you used to be, the person they once pretended to adore. It's not your imagination. It's not an overreaction. It's the cost of being tangled with someone whose love was never real, only rehearsed. This realization hurts. It shakes your foundation, but it also frees you. Because once you see the mask, you can stop blaming yourself for not seeing the monster behind it. You were not blind. You were targeted. Because you have what they lack: empathy, depth, real strength. They wanted to absorb that light, to stand next to it, to wear it like it was theirs, but they never earned it, because they never felt it. You did. And that's why you can rise, because the pain you're carrying, it came from loving deeply, from hoping endlessly, from fighting silently. That's not weakness. That's your power being stretched. So remember this. The mask they wear is only strong when you stay silent. The moment you name it, the illusion cracks. The moment you see it for what it is, you take your power back. Not all prisons are made of bars. Some are built with smiles, promises, and false praise. But every prison has a door, and every truth has a key. You just found one. They don't just wear a mask. They become a fantasy. A narcissist doesn't start a relationship by showing who they are. They start by showing you what you've been missing, what you've been craving, what you never thought you could find. They study you. They reflect your hopes. They shift into your version of the ideal partner. It doesn't feel forced. It feels magical, effortless, like destiny. But destiny doesn't manipulate, and real love doesn't imitate. What you're seeing isn't real connection. It's construction, a blueprint of who they think you want. And they build it with precision. Every compliment is designed to pull you in. Every story is crafted to make you trust them. Every smile hides a calculation. This isn't romance. This is engineering. They create a bond that feels impossible to walk away from. Because in the beginning, they offer the very things the world has denied you: attention, admiration, a sense of being chosen. You feel like the center of their universe. You feel seen, heard, adored. And that's what makes the fall so devastating. Because the higher they lift you, the further there is to fall. The moment they believe they have you, truly have you, the performance begins to change. It's subtle at first. The compliments become rare. The warmth cools. The tiny criticisms begin, wrapped in jokes or offhand remarks. You don't even realize you're being reprogrammed. You think maybe they're just tired or stressed. You blame work, pressure, anything to protect the image of who they were. Because you're not holding on to the person in front of you. You're holding on to the illusion they gave you. And that illusion is powerful. It's the memory of the good times that keeps you stuck in the bad ones. It's the hope that if you just try harder, love better, stay quieter, it'll go back to the way it was. But it won't. Because it never was. That version of them, that perfect partner, that wasn't real. It was bait, it was camouflage. And here's where the psychology runs deep. Human beings crave consistency. We're wired to seek patterns. When someone treats us wonderfully, our brain stores that as truth. So when they begin to hurt us, our mind doesn't reject them. It rejects the pain. It fights to restore the original version. That's why so many people stay. Not because they're weak, not because they're naive, but because they're human, because they're loyal to the love they thought they found. The narcissist knows this. They depend on it. They keep just enough of the illusion alive to confuse you. A sudden compliment after days of silence. A small act of kindness after a week of coldness. A reminder of how good things used to be. It's not affection. It's control disguised as care. You start to question your own standards. You lower the bar. You try to become easier, more agreeable, more understanding, hoping to fix what was never yours to fix. But you can't negotiate with manipulation. You can't love someone into authenticity. And you can't bring back a version of a person that never truly existed. That's the cruel genius of the narcissist's illusion. They build a bond that feels sacred, then use it to keep you silent. They give you a taste of being cherished, then take it away just long enough to make you chase it. It's not love, it's emotional addiction. A cycle of reward and withdrawal that keeps your nervous system on edge, your heart confused, and your soul exhausted. And when you try to speak up, they say you've changed. They accuse you of being too sensitive, too dramatic, too ungrateful. It flips your world upside down. Because now you're defending yourself in a story they wrote. But here's the deeper truth. The love you felt was real. You were real. Your effort, your loyalty, your hope, they were real. What wasn't real was them. And seeing that clearly is not a loss. It's a breakthrough. You didn't fall in love with a narcissist. You fell in love with a carefully designed illusion. A mirror they held up showing you everything you ever wanted. And that says something powerful, not about them, but about you. It says your heart is open. It says you believe in connection. It says you're capable of deep, beautiful love. And that's something no narcissist can truly give or take. So when the illusion fades, and all that's left is confusion, silence, and blame, don't question your worth. Question the story. Because you didn't lose a real partner. You lost a performance, and now you have the chance to reclaim the most important thing of all yourself. Real love is built on connection, on understanding, presence, and the willingness to grow together. It's messy sometimes, but it's honest. It invites vulnerability. It welcomes truth. But a narcissist doesn't seek connection. They seek control. That's why the relationship starts with intensity, not intimacy. They want to know everything about you fast. Not because they care deeply, but because information is power. The more they know, the more they can shape, twist, and use. In the early stages, it feels like closeness. They want your time, your thoughts, your attention. They want access to your fears and your history. It feels like love, but it's not. It's positioning. Every word you share becomes a tool they can use later. not to support you, but to disarm you. When you open up, they don't hold your heart. They file it for later, for leverage. Because in their world, closeness isn't about bonding, it's about blueprinting control. And once you're emotionally invested, they begin to tighten that control one thread at a time. They don't bark orders. They suggest things. They don't forbid you. They just disapprove subtly, repeatedly. You start changing without even realizing it. You dress differently because they joked about your style. You stop talking about certain topics because they get too sensitive. You shrink your joy so their moods stay stable. That's not connection. That's quiet domination. They want you close, but not as an equal. They want you small enough to manage, quiet enough to control, loyal enough to never leave, but uncertain enough to never feel safe. And here's where it gets cruel. They make you feel like you're the one failing the relationship. They flip the script. Suddenly, you're too emotional, too reactive, too much. You start to believe it. Because you're trying, you're compromising, you're giving more, hoping it will create peace. But peace is not their goal. Power is. So the more you bend, the more they tighten their grip. And you begin to live inside their emotional weather system. Their bad moods become your fault. Their silence becomes your punishment. For their approval becomes your only relief. This isn't love. It's psychological warfare disguised as partnership. And when you try to reclaim your space, your voice, your identity, they escalate. Sometimes with anger, sometimes with withdrawal, sometimes with guilt, tears, or the promise to change. But it's not real change. It's a reset, a tactic, a way to keep you in the loop. Because control isn't just about dominance. It's about confusion. It's about making you question your own instincts so deeply you no longer trust them. And that's the most dangerous kind of control. The invisible kind. The kind that makes you doubt your reality while clinging to theirs. That's how they stay married for years. Not by creating connection, but by replacing it with control. By building a world where their partner gives more, asks for less, and slowly forgets what real love even feels like. And yet, from the outside, everything looks normal. The home seems stable. The couple seems committed. But one person is disappearing behind closed doors. Because control doesn't leave bruises. It leaves silence, loneliness, an ache you can't name. It's in the way you pause before speaking, the way you check their mood before sharing good news, the way you filter yourself just to avoid another argument. That's not love. That's captivity. And the worst part, you might start to believe this is all you deserve. But let this truth hit you. You were never too much. You were never the problem. You were simply someone who loved deeply, inside a system built to use that love against you. That's not your fault. That's their design. They don't need to scream to control you. They just need to make you forget who you are. But you haven't forgotten. You're still here. Still searching. Still listening. Still hoping that something inside this confusion will lead you back to yourself. That's not weakness. That's strength. Real strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, "This isn't love. I deserve more." Because connection doesn't make you feel small. It doesn't require your silence. It doesn't punish your truth. Connection expands you. It holds you. It invites you to be more of yourself, not less. And when you realize that, control loses its grip. Because the moment you see it for what it is, you stop playing the part. You stop shrinking, or you start rising. And that's where healing begins. Control is the structure, but emotional manipulation is the fuel. It's what keeps the system alive. For not through strength, not through love, but through distortion, through confusion, through the slow unraveling of truth. To a narcissist, emotions are tools. Not theirs, yours, your joy, your guilt, your fear, your hope. They don't nurture these feelings, they twist them. Because the real power doesn't come from shouting. It comes from making you feel like you're always the one at fault. It starts small. You express pain, and they dismiss it. You raise a concern, and they flip it back on you. You cry, and they say you're too sensitive. Again and again, the message is the same. Your feelings aren't valid. But they won't say it directly. They do it with a sigh, a smirk, a sarcastic comment, a well-timed silence that leaves you feeling unimportant. And slowly, your mind begins to shift. You stop asking for what you need. You stop trusting your reactions. You begin to wonder, maybe I am overreacting. Maybe it is my fault. This is emotional manipulation at its core. They don't control you by force. They control you by rewiring your reality. You feel something is wrong, but you're made to feel wrong for feeling it. They know exactly which buttons to press because they've studied you. They know your past wounds. They know your fears of abandonment, your need for approval, your desire for peace, and they use all of it. One day, they withhold affection. The next day, they flood you with it, not because they've changed, but because they want to reset you. They want to keep you off balance. Because a person in emotional chaos is easier to control, and that chaos becomes your normal. You start to live in cycles of tension and temporary relief. They hurt you, then play the healer. They cause the wound, then offer the bandage. But the bandage never lasts because it's never meant to heal, only to prolong the dependency. You become attached not to the love, but to the hope that the good version of them will come back. The one who once said all the right things, the one who made you feel like you mattered, but that version was never real. It was bait, a setup. They didn't love you. They loved your admiration, your attention, your willingness to give more than you received. And now that you're emotionally invested, they use that attachment against you. They make you feel guilty for pulling away. They make you feel selfish for wanting space. They say you're heartless, distant, cold, even though you've been the one carrying the emotional weight all along. You find yourself explaining your reactions, justifying your pain, trying to prove to them that you're worthy of kindness. But no one should have to prove they deserve respect. And here's where the trap gets deeper. They don't always act toxic. Sometimes they're loving, gentle, affectionate, and that's what makes it so hard to leave. Because when things are good, they feel really good. The highs are addictive, but they're also calculated. Because a narcissist doesn't give love freely. They give it strategically. When you're slipping away, when they feel your strength returning, when they sense they're losing control. That's sudden kindness. It's not love, it's a leash. And every time you take the bait, you get pulled back into the cycle. Not because you're weak, but because you're human. Because you want to believe the best in people. Because you were taught that love means holding on. But real love doesn't hurt you and call it your fault. Real love doesn't punish you with silence or weaponize your emotions. Manipulation doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it smiles. Sometimes it pretends to be love. But here's what it can't do. It can't survive your clarity. Because the moment you name it, really name it, something powerful happens. You stop explaining yourself. You stop trying to fix what you didn't break. You stop seeing their approval as your oxygen. You start seeing the game. And once you see the game, you don't play the same way anymore. You respond differently. You pause before reacting. You begin to separate your truth from their narrative. And that's where your power returns. Not all battles are loud. Some are silent, fought inside your mind. Fought in the moments when you choose to believe yourself instead of their version of you. And every time you trust your voice, their grip loosens. Because manipulation only works when you stop trusting yourself, but your truth, it's still there.
Waiting, strong,
unshaken. And the more you remember who you are, the less their control matters. You don't owe your loyalty to someone who trades in confusion. You don't owe your silence to someone who profits from your pain. You owe yourself peace, clarity, and the kind of love that doesn't ask you to shrink. If it hurts so much, why do people stay? It's a question often asked by those on the outside, but for those on the inside, the answer is never simple. Because when you're caught in a relationship with a narcissist, you're not just held by love. You're held by hope. Hope that the person you first met will come back. Hope that the version of them who once made you feel alive is still in there, somewhere. But that hope doesn't live alone. It walks hand in hand with hurt. The two become inseparable. You can't tell where one ends and the other begins. It's a loop, a psychological trap that keeps people circling the same emotional pain year after year, sometimes decade after decade. It starts with a high, the affection, the attention, the promises, the feeling that you finally found someone who gets you, someone who sees your worth. Then something shifts, for the tone changes, the coldness creeps in, criticism replaces curiosity, distance replaces warmth. But instead of seeing it for what it is, Your mind searches for reasons. Maybe they're stressed. Maybe you did something wrong. Maybe it's just a phase. You adjust. You give more. You explain yourself. You try to fix it, because that's what healthy people do. They try. But the more you try, the more the narcissist pulls back or pushes harder. And right when you're ready to walk away, they switch again. Suddenly they're kind, attentive. They say things you've longed to hear. They bring back the warmth just long enough to make you stay. This is the cycle of hope and hurt. And it's not accidental, it's psychological conditioning. In psychology, it's called intermittent reinforcement, the most powerful form of behavioral control. You never know when the kindness is coming, so you stay waiting. Waiting for the good moment, waiting for the emotional reward. But here's the truth, they're not nurturing love. They're creating dependence. 4. You become addicted to the hope of change. And every time they give you a glimpse of the person they once pretended to be, it resets your belief that things can get better. But better never comes, only more cycles, more pain, more waiting. And over time, something dangerous happens. You begin to doubt your right to peace. You begin to believe that maybe this is all relationships are. You tell yourself, it's not always bad, as if sometimes good is enough to survive a lifetime of mostly painful. You rationalize, you excuse. You shrink, not because you're weak, but because you're exhausted. You've poured so much energy into saving something that's been built to drain you. And still, you stay. Because what if walking away means giving up on the only version of love you've known? What if leaving means you're the one who failed? That fear, that guilt, it's heavy, and narcissists use it. They feed it with words like, after everything I've done for you, no one else will love you like I do. You're just being emotional. You're so difficult to please. And over time, you stop recognizing the manipulation because it doesn't come with violence. It comes with familiarity. You've learned how to function inside the dysfunction. You've learned how to keep the peace, how to keep the smiles going in public and the storms quiet behind closed doors. But inside, you feel it. That quiet ache. That sense that something isn't right. That you're surviving a life that was meant to be lived. So why do people stay? Because their hearts are loyal. Because they believe in healing. Because they see the potential in someone, even when that person refuses to grow. But potential is not a promise. And love should not be a battle for survival. Staying for love is noble. Staying for hope is human. But staying in pain is not your purpose. You don't have to prove your worth by enduring more than you should. You don't have to keep giving chances to someone who only changes when they feel you slipping away. You are not crazy. You are not weak. You are not difficult. You are someone who loved deeply in a place that couldn't hold that love with care. And now you're waking up. Because when the cycle becomes clear, it loses its power. When the pattern reveals itself, you stop blaming yourself for the confusion. And when you finally understand that love should never come wrapped in fear, you stop chasing the version of them that never really existed. You start chasing you again, the you that was silenced, the you that believed in peace, the you that remembers what it means to feel safe, seen, and whole. And that's when the healing begins.